know
in
that.
the game. See, the more you know. You know that whole thing where it's like 10,000 people all discovered the same thing in the same day? Who knows? We have more than 10,000 people watching. It's entirely possible that they're just figuring it out for the first time. 2 operator bans are in, and take a look at who Astralis banned first. Finca no more. Hibana joins as well on a map like Bank, where you see that bottom floor bomb site being the most played by usually quite a fair margin. You need to ban one of the hard breachers. This has always been a constant through all of Bank, is that if you leave all of the 4 hard breachers up, it is just so easy for the attackers to take, if you're defending upstairs, to take those CEO walls. Open area, that quadruple panel wall that we saw Yaga clutch on earlier today, and then downstairs, of course, the 2 hatches. Other operator bans are in. Kaid taken out of action, and Valkyrie are the 2 operator bans on defense. And with the very first of those defenses, Astralis are going to go downstairs to Lockers CCTV, and we see another Tachanka, as we have seen so far today. Tachanka before on this bomb site.
Yeah, Tachanka, just kind of similar when you see him on like Aviator games on Villa. In addition to that smoke, it just gives you so many, of course, a lot more time to burn, but it also gives you a lot more options as to where you want to allocate that utility. If you want to focus all of your smokes on denying the plant coming in from server, great, you can do that. For Tachanka as well, if you have the lineups, you can, all right, well, we've already shot a Shumika grenade in the prep phase, so Shuttle practicing some of those lineups already. You just are given so many more options. In addition to the Echo that we're also seeing, all of them, of course, some of them different than others, but all give you options to deny that plant and either burn time, or in the case of the Yokai, deny that plant specifically. But we also have an interesting repick coming out from TSM. We saw Monty in a blitz earlier, so I was getting excited. We don't have either of those, but we do have a Sens on the board coming out from Merc.
Didn't see a lot of Sens play. So if you don't know who Sens is, they're the newest operator added to the game. The ROU is the name of their gadget. They identify as non-binary, so they, them are how we will refer to Sens. Just in case you are curious and you have that question. The big thing about Sens is that they're a 3 armor, and I really struggle to see how 3 armors really fit into this meta. Gridlock obviously being a 3 armor, Monty also a 3 armor, and look at this, oh my goodness. As I'm talking, TSM, I just wanted to talk about the newest operator, and immediately Iconic and DP Fire are dead 40 seconds into the round. This looks a lot like what we saw out of Astralis yesterday on Theme Park, a very loose, very aggressive roam. Mirage wasn't exactly a team that yesterday could punish it as much, but TSM able to do it quite quickly and quite confidently.
Well, even there, part of it, it almost seemed like DP Fire wasn't even necessarily trying to challenge the window, just running away and got caught in the very prolonged crossfire coming out from Bolo with that LMGE. So no Finca, but you do still have the 150 bullet menace that is Zophia's LMG. And since you lost that smoke because Iconic was playing so aggressively upstairs inside his stock, you're going to be really thankful that you brought Shuttle and decided to put him on that Tachanka to have those Shumika grenades. But Astralis are in danger of going into a 3v5, or a 2v5 right now, excuse me. Only half the round gone, but TSM have found Forrest downstairs in Tellers, and what do you know? Merc goes in to clear him, and Merc goes in to kill him.
A nice kill from the Sens operator that we were talking about earlier on, 51 bullets in that new gun that was added to the game. And the other thing about Sens is they have access to that secondary hard breacher, or secondary hard breach gadget, so they can be that secondary hard breacher. Shuttle is not too far away and does an awful lot of damage as he drops, but absorbs a ton as well. Now it's Bolo on the next line of fire, but J90 is as good as gone. It's Shuttle to clutch out. 30 bullets left before a reload, and soft wall leading to the stairs, but Shuttle's got an awful lot of angles to cover. The one good thing about that LMG that Shuttle holds onto is how much soft destruction it can do, so lots of avenues, lots of lines of sight. We see that ROU go out, create that mist gadget, but the Shumika launcher stops the potential default plant from going off. Banking off the wall, Shuttle buying as much time for his team, 35 seconds left for him to buy. And with the ROU going, Achieved will push in, Merc there as well, and they all drop into the middle of the bomb site. Chala holding on the diffuser, getting it down. It's a flawless round, denied by Shuttle, but Bolo gets the final kill anyway. It's unfortunate that TSM couldn't complete it with all 5 of their players still upright, but they get round number 1 either way, and I'm sure they'll be happy for that.
Yeah, even though it's not a flawless, that was about as good of a roam clear as you could expect because they got 2 kills in the first 45 seconds without even entering the building. Astralis, it seems in stock, tried to come to TSM and take a fight, and in the case of DP Fire, he might have just been completely unlucky with a rotation. But then later on, as we saw, Astralis were heavily committing to presence off-site. We had Forest inside of Tellers, and we also had Shuttle sitting on top of the hatch in open area. Now, at this point in a 3v5, you don't want to just play site for 2 minutes. You're going to give TSM free map control and free map control very quickly into the round. So you want to get aggressive, but it's a double-edged sword because you need to take fights, but if you end up losing them, what do you know? It ends up being a 1v5, and there's really not much Shuttle can do, even though he can waste time with those Shemika grenades. He was basically just prolonging the inevitable.
I like what Tachanka brings to that bomb site, and teams really enjoy the area denial that comes with that Shemika launcher, the Molotovs that get shot out of the launcher itself, and then of course all the soft destruction, because if you've ever played on this map, you know how much soft destruction goes in down there, especially if you want to extend upwards. We do see teams hold that second and first floor while it's a basement defense. We've seen mirror strategies up on the top floor. We've seen teams play with a zombie up on the top floor, and Astralis has actually done just that, running a zombie inside of the CEO component. But it was more of a turtle-style defense for a lot of Astralis after they lost those 2 roamers, right? And I mean, yes, at that point, you really do need to pivot. Astralis did that. I don't know how successful it ultimately could have been because, as you pointed out, they lost 2 players, 2 very pivotal players early on. It's a slower round to start off with, 30 seconds in. Neither team has found a single kill just yet, but hey, they're fishing for one. TSM have dropped the Sens, so a more stable lineup here, running with a single hard breacher of Thermite as they try to tackle this open area defense set up by Astralis.
One thing they'll have to tackle is this Azami, though. They're trying to tackle it pretty quickly. The Yana just moves on in, and Iconic peaks, and Iconic falls. So I was about to go on a whole diatribe about how powerful Azami could be upstairs by throwing those Kiba barriers actively, but now he is dead. DP Fire trying to retake Iconic's position on those stairs. J9O also going to support. Both find some attackers, but it is still TSM dominantly controlling the early round. Despite J9O doing a little bit of damage, TSM are not daunted by any stretch of the imagination.
And there's another from Merc. Goodness gracious, 4-1 so far as J9O is gone from action. Achieved's turn to fall for TSM. Astralis get their very first pick here in this round, only a second so far. Chala will need to be retrieved by TSM. That's likely who's going to plant the diffuser. If you look at the lineup remaining from Astralis, it's a Malusi and a Legion, and no impacts left, meaning that you don't have to worry with the little HP that Chala has about a smoke or a nitro cell or even an impact denying TSM the ability to get that diffuser down. The question is, how quickly do you go for this execute? You still got more than a minute to go for TSM, and you hold a significant advantage as you try to drone out these last 2 players. Polo knows that one is nearby, over by the area affectionately referred to by some as Trump. And Bolo has a 6th sense as to where the Legion of Forest is. Sitting just by Banana and watching the window. Shuttle's not too far off. The bomb site, by the way, is completely clear. Chala could at any point just walk right in and start planting, and there'd be no information, it seems like, from Astralis, unless there's a potential proximity alarm, but nicely done by Forest. Waiting out Bolo. Suddenly the numbers inching ever closer. I don't know why TSM is not getting this diffuser down. There they go, finally attempting it. Oh, very close to being done, and it's all the way through. In the midst of the bomb site is Geo. Shuttle and Forest have now dropped inside a small office. They know that Geo's in this position, and he sees the Malusi does a lot of damage, and it's a nice down with a shot onto the shoulder, leaving more on the shoulders of Forest, quite literally. Merc could collect 1 kill here, but no, it's Geo himself to get it, and that's a 2-0 for TSM.
And a similar story to round number 1 as well. At this time, at least they entered the building. Astralis made them go a little bit farther than before in order to get 2 kills. Merc had to walk into top square, but beyond that, it was an incredibly similar story. In fact, even a worse one in some ways, because even though Merc had to enter the building, he got 3 kills for TSM far quicker than they were able to last time. They had to do a little bit of work to find Forest and Tellers. This time, the 3rd roamer just came to TSM, and Astralis ended up falling down in the 2v5 very early on. And as you pointed out, they had ample time to do whatever they really wanted to. You want a drone? Sure, go for it. You want to hit the site? Sure. They had the option to because Shuttle and Forest were still very focused on holding upstairs, understandably so. I'm very worried about predicting Astralis going forward, or how my prediction is going to fare in this match, because if they're going to try to roam and it has as much success as the past 2 rounds have been, sure, Bank could sometimes turn attacker-sided, but this is something different entirely.
Back downstairs they go, and some changes coming in for Astralis. Note on the right side of your screen that is actually inaccurate. There is no 6th pick or defender repick, so DP Fire and Forest did not choose Azami and Legion in the midst of the prep phase, so they've locked those in. It's not like they saw it as a stylistic choice.
But of course, still, good pick for Azami as well. And we still have the Echo, of course, coming back from round number 1. Hopefully we see a little bit more impact in that. If Astralis are just going to lose in the early round like they've done the past couple times, we won't really see an impact from the Yokais. And same with those Azamis. If we're going to see this realm fall, a lot of that utility we talked about in round 1 and 2, the Kibas, the Shumikas, the Smokes, the Yokais, it's not really going to matter if you're putting yourself in a 3v5 or a 2v5 very quickly.
I like the use of that Kiba barrier by DP Fire onto the soft wall inside of paper, and I know that a lot of people like to use this mobile cover as the #1 usage for Azami's abilities, but you can also just throw it on the wall and they can't shoot through it. So if you're going to play a spot next to a soft wall, it can eat up all of those bullets quite effectively. Oh my.
Well, so you're talking about how you can throw a Kiba barrier on the wall, Parker, and they just can't shoot through it. They can't do it. You know what Geo did? He went behind it. And unfortunately for DP Fire, little did he know, they had a drone in stock, Z pinging him the whole time, and TSM was willing to Geo, hey, if you hop in the window, you can just kill him for free. And that is exactly what they did. And Astralis lose another powerful operator very early on, but at least this time, it's not a string of deaths coming through. A lot of them have already started moving back towards the site, or at least are close to a rotation back to it.
Similar play from Shuttle inside of open area on the hatch, where he can drop quite effectively and challenge if somebody comes in that way. Iconic as smoke on top of blue is pretty standard stuff. If you're not going to be playing for post-plant, you might have the Yokai there. You might have Shuttle dropping to try and cover that. That frees up your smoke to play a very important part of the map, quite critically. The only player who I would be concerned with is Forest for a couple reasons. Number one, he's rotating downstairs in Tellers. He's got to rotate into Archives, and he can watch open as well. But he sees Merc for a second, and Forest will now decide to go for it. And Merc was on such low HP, it was almost certainty that he would win. And now there's Iconic to drop with Tachanka. I think this is what Astralis visualized with their roam, and it works out quite well, even if they did lose that first pick.
Yeah, this was exactly the kind of scenario they were thinking of. Even if they take a loss in the early round, they're still able to just kind of lurk on the middle floor, force TSM to drone them, and then get the better of them with some of these engagements. Forest still on the middle floor as well. Bolo will flick onto the wall and just aim a little bit above Forest's head, but he will survive inside of Tellers for the time being, and that'll waste a little bit of time for TSM, or make them more uncertain, until he dies very unceremoniously at the 30-second mark, and we're back to even.
And there are the smokes to go. So if you look at the 3 remaining operators, these are the 3 pivotal operators you want in the dying moments of a round. Shumika Launcher still has 9 Molotovs in it, 2 smokes from Iconic. And depending on where the Yokais are, this could be huge, but you don't need a Yokai. You hear the pitter-patter of the LMG of Capitao. It's Shuttle to take out Chala. J90 falls to Geo, and there's Iconic from way far back. He's in a 1v1 with Bolo, but Bolo doesn't have anywhere near enough time. It's a war of attrition, but Astralis ends up winning it with the clock on their side. They finally get on the board, takes 3 rounds, and they do it on a repeat performance of a downstairs bomb site that didn't quite go in their favor the first time.
No, not at all. Not whatsoever. But that time, Astralis, they did have somebody playing all the way up on the top floor. There was DP Fire behind those Kiba barriers, and he did suffer a similar fate to those players all the way back on that first attempt at lockers. But this go around, they didn't have 3 people suddenly swarming square or swarming stock. They just played their positions. Forest was inside of Tellers and Archives for pretty much the entire round. Shuttle was inside of open area for pretty much the entire round. They said, okay, let's calm down. Sure, DP Fire's gone, but we had a plan. Let's stick to it. Let's force TSM to drone us out since they are going for this full clear. It's going to take them a bit of time, and they might make some mistakes. I don't think Merc made a mistake in droning out Forest, but Forest was still able to win the fight and waste enough time that once TSM did go for that execute, Astralis had set up their positions, had set up their crossfires, and TSM didn't have intel on a lot of players, like, for example, Iconic by Elevators.
I just want to say for 1 second here, not that I always disagree with the community poll. Yesterday, obviously, I disagreed with the Super versus Canadian one because that was objective.
Yes,
Super is older than Canadian. There is a wrong answer to that question. But this question that was posed to you, who is the better coach? 82% saying Bojo Man. I don't think Bojo Man's a bad coach at all. And obviously, his coaching is a key part of how TSM won SI. But what Callout has done to this Astralis roster, a bottom-of-the-barrel team previously, by coming onto this squad, giving them discipline, giving them structure, and additionally picking up Forest, Callout has gotten so much out of Astralis that they almost topped every single team at the Charlotte Major. They finished second. They only lost to their fellow countrymen in Dark Zero They were the best team in the NAL in Stage 1. Whether you want to say that Pojo is still better than Callout, that's fine, but 82 to 18% is embarrassing from a community perspective. Callout is a phenomenal coach, and there's more than 18% of you who should be saying that he is the chosen of the two, even if he might not be the better one. I don't know, it's hard for us to rank coaches, but that makes me mad. It makes me mad seeing that.
Yeah,
I just wanted to say it.
I understand a little bit because, you know, Pojo Man, you know, he did coach a World Championship winning roster, and it was a little while ago where there was still a chance Astralis could have made relegations back in Stage 3 of last year, but I definitely agree. Callout maybe a little bit underrated by that poll. 2 kills fly on the scoreboard while we were talking about Callout's expertise on the coaching field with Bolo and Iconic. That Azami again for Astralis falling off the board. They have failed to get maximum usage out of those Kiva barriers for the past 4 rounds now, especially once they are placed in that roam. A lot of them, whether it's DP Fire or Iconic, have died very quickly, and Forrest in a position right now where he too might fall momentarily.
Bolo's stats have been much talked about on defense not being the greatest, so racking it up on attack is great. He's got 4 kills to his name. Achieved is usually consistent across the board, and it's, well, for him, he's gone. He's having a rough game. And it's an equalization by Geo as he takes down one of the Astralis players. As for Geo, he's 6-1. That's a pretty impressive scoreline. The depth of TSM is really something that we talk about quite often. Every single player on this team is a threat, and Merc is often one of them too. He guns down Shuttle. That's Forrest from above to hold. This is a Teller's Archives defense, and Merc finds another, the telltale signs of his weapon. Forrest gives his position away onto a nice shot on Merc from above, but Diffuser going down means that Forrest will have to get back to the bomb site. Will have to do so quite quickly. Unsure if he was spotted by the drone. Geo will be the one to stop him should he falls. A vault from Forrest will be well heard. He knows that there might be somebody under the stairs, but there's a couple openings. A castle barricade keeps Geo safe. His feet could have been spotted, but no. Forrest with 6 kills to his name has a soft wall to fire away at. Diffuser not too far off, but TSM wisely playing this back. Forrest could clutch out, but he's on such low HP, and I don't know how much information he has. He'll also be thwarted on a couple of entry points to that main lobby by those castle barricades. Instead, he heads through main lobby, through that front of Tellers, and he gets gunned down by Geo, who now picks up kill number 7. Impressive stuff by TSM. They traded out that very first pick, but they kept the momentum rolling, and through the mid-round, when Merc in particular isolated those 2 players from Astralis and got the kills, that ultimately is where the round was won, and effectively for Astralis, lost.
Yeah, fully agreed, and also that was an early round that wasn't nearly as much like the earlier ones, where Astralis were almost kind of doing work for TSM and saying, hey, we're right here, come get us. That time, TSM actually had to do some work in opening up angles, getting players in positions to pinch out a lot of the players on that roam, specifically opening up that Kanto wall, finding DP Fire in the long hallway outside of CEO and office. That was something that TSM simply haven't had to do before because Astralis, well, they usually just peeked them and then died in the first, 30 seconds or first minute of the round. But then again, as you said, Merc in the mid-round, he had that vertical control, or, well, not that vertical control, sorry, we were watching Forrest at the time. But he was able to still move into the site and get the 2 picks on the players down below, that even though Forrest had that vertical control, it was completely negated by the fact that, well, Merc had opened up the site. There's only so much you can do with so little holes and not enough time.
Absolutely. So a bomb site that we don't see all that often, but has slowly started to pick up its usage, is Teller's Archives. I mean, it's 4 rounds that we've seen it be played. It's been won by the defense 3 of those 4 rounds. Now, obviously, we've seen it a couple times today. These stats are from before the matchup today, as far as I'm aware, that we have access to, so I don't believe they include our 2 previous matches. And yes, it's been Bank League today, as this is our 3rd time on this map of the 3 maps that we've seen played. But either way, I understand that it's a defender-sided map statistically, or a defender-sided bomb site at the moment. I get that. Bank overall is 52% for defense, 48% for attackers. It's a coin flip map. There really isn't anything great to go off of here. But if you're going to try to win rounds on defense, you got to be aggressive. It hasn't really worked out for Astralis. They've been trying it. This round, big pick. The single hard breacher for TSM taken off the board. There's a backup. Achieved has access to that can opener on Fuse. But other than that, you've lost Chala, you've lost your normal planter, who so far has been able to get the diffuser down twice. And you also lose that really crucial exothermic charge that comes with Thermite.
Yeah, that's a really big pick coming out from J9O. It's also the first time Astralis have gotten the opening pick completely uncontested. Before, it's either been TSM or a trade. This time, J9O gets Chala. No answer back from TSM. And taking out that Thermite, as you said, since we are watching an open area defense, no option to really get that quad wall unless you use the hard breach charges. But TSM still finding some luck in the early round or getting these engagements. DP Fire on cams, found out an elevator. That's also a crucial position for Bolo to hold.
DP Fire sees the drone, shoots it, and then immediately goes on to the cams, which I appreciate, but it's if you're having somebody follow up on you, you're in rough shape. DP Fire is currently 0-5 and a small bit of a blunder. This is an open area defense, the first time that we've seen this bomb site be defended at all in this matchup, and the stats for it are dead even. 16 times played, 8 wins for the attackers, 8 wins for the defenders. Totally wide open.
And right now, of course, we see some very good positions held by the defense. Shuttle on marble stairs. What do you know? Merc just face checks it and falls with the diffuser in hand. So TSM's focus now has to completely shift over to that staircase where, what do you know? There are 3 Astralis defenders all stationed around that area. 2 in the basement, 1 on the main floor. TSM have a hell of a crossfire they have to try to get through to pick up that diffuser again.
I mean, there's no real way to flush them out. You might just have to brute force this unless you decide to drop, and that's exactly what Bolo does. Now, if he has any stuns left in that lifeline launcher, he can make a real mess here, but he can catch the Azami quite effectively. A second kill for Bolo, a third lined up. Can he outduel the Malusi of Shuttle? He'll fire away. Guess what? There's still over 100 bullets left! And a beautiful flick from Shuttle, but he gets dragged down as Bolo's third kill comes in. 20 seconds left, and now with the utility, and now with the diffuser, Bolo is literally going to do it all. He's got achieved with those 3 cluster charges, and make that 2 as one goes off onto the paneled wall, leading into this open area. As Achieved walks in, the explosion's going, they hunt him down, Bolo sees one, can't do much, it's Bolo now to clutch out, but he can't accomplish it as an LMG of Astralis' own seals the deal, and this match is getting ever closer as Astralis now win 2 rounds to TSM's 3, and they do it on open area.
Yeah, and that was I want to give them credit, and even if they were still just making the most of a good situation, that's good. But I want to say that once they realized that they got the thermite and Janino was able to kill him, they said, okay, what's going to happen? Odds are they're probably not going to go for the quad wall, just because even if they know that, you know, their only hard breaching is 2 hard breach charges, which I don't know if they did, but still taking down that thermite, odds are, okay, they're probably not going to go for that. So where are they going to push from? Maybe they'll try to push in from metal detectors, from beepers, or from archives or somewhere around that area. So you know what we should do? We should rotate a lot of people over, have J9O play on that double door, and have 2 players play down below. So even if they just start lurking over there, probing for a weakness, we can start striking at their back line or at their frontier, wherever they happen to be, and stop them from getting that execute. So that was a really good read by Astralis, and really good at recognizing who they killed early on and then making the most of it later.
Can we also talk about that flick from Shuttle?
Yeah, that was pretty good.
He had no right at all in actually getting a kill there.
I also just have to respect, by the way, I just have to respect not re-peaking Bolo.
Right.
Just discipline right there.
And I mean, if you're somebody like Shuttle, you were usually quite disciplined. Shuttle has been everywhere, and
yes,
people seem to forget this. He's played in grand finals before on LAN. He was on that Elevate roster that ultimately lost to Penta all the way back in Germany, Gamescom in 2017. And he's just been around the block. He's been on Rogue, he's been on SSG, he's been super effective in basically everywhere that he's gone, and continues to be a staple player here in the NAL, and has been a very important part of this Astralis squad. I know that there were periods of time where the ceiling for Astralis didn't seem as high as it has been, and you just have to go off of somebody like Shuttle as being more of that veteran presence. This blind fire through the wall by Bolo, tracking one down, another inside of the elevator, trapped for the moment. I don't know if Iconic is going to be able to get out of here alive or not. Still in this position, gets droned out. There's a hatch underneath Iconic, but he can't pop it because he doesn't have the shotgun, and he's got a deployable shield in his pocket.
He's trapped.
So he's in a really rough shape. He's just going to need to win this duel against it.
Oh!
No, instead it's a famous disappearing act. He gets bailed out by one of his teammates who open it up. I'm assuming that was Shuttle to come to the rescue, but look at that!
Yep.
They immediately greet Shuttle and Forest, leaving Iconic to live as he baits his teammates, and Geo with a big 2-piece will give TSM a 5v1. There's still half of the round to go. This is a Lockers defense, and all the action has occurred on that top floor. Even J9O, the last player from Astralis, not in the bomb site, currently sitting on the stairs.
Think he wins it?
He's about to be dropped out. Do I think he wins a 1v5? Oh, hell no.
On Marble?
Oh, hell no.
Hey, Merc is 1 HP.
I mean, you get 1 kill, and it doesn't matter. Right, well, Chief's going to be the one to finish it off. That's the play for TSM, as they were denied a flawless round all the way back in round number 1. They get it on their very final attack, and they take bank 4-2 on the first half. That's really, I'd say that's pretty good if we look at the stats.
I would agree. I would agree that that is very good, especially when all 4 rounds that TSM won, it didn't even look close, really. Like, of course, they went 4-2. They did drop a couple rounds, but in the 4 that TSM won, it was completely lights out for them. As you said, almost half of those rounds were flawless, and that's only because they got robbed by an impactless frag in a previous round. Then they got an actual flawless round to end out the half. TSM looked extremely on point right there, and a lot of people from Astralis, especially DP Fire, have unfortunately been slacking. Jay and I know, yeah, sure, he's not as on the front lines as he otherwise might be in maybe some other positions, but 2-5, DP Fire 0-6, involved in 3 of those opening picks on the defense, on Azami as well. A lot of utility dying early. Astralis aren't individually performing, but at the same time, TSM have been so on point with their positioning on their attack that if we move to the defense and they have just as strong of an opening round as they were on the attack, this might be a quick one for TSM.
5 seconds left.
I think it really depends on this round or two. No timeouts have been used, by the way. We talk about the tail of the tapes for the first half. Well, let's go through them. Obviously, the scoreline 4-2 for TSM, but how did things shake out? Well, all of the bomb sites that were played by Astralis were very middling, I would say. Yeah, they had some good looks here, and oh my goodness.
No.
All right, hold on a second. Astralis wanted to be in the action when they were on defense, but now they're doing the same thing on attack, which is good. I think setting a very quick tempo on attack is a good thing. But Iconic walks in completely blind. He's 2-6. He gets absolutely smoked by Bolo. Not where Astralis needs to be to start. But I will say this. It's an Amaru. Very low utility operator. Good for being able to get in and get out, depending on where you're playing, but we've seen Amarus before when it's a bottom floor bomb site. That's where it is right now. And oh, in he goes, and down he goes. Shuttle walks in, and he's greeted by a shotgun blast by Geo. Things not working out for Astralis. 2 minutes still to go in the round, and TSM, as we've said time and time again, they've got a lead. They're up 5-3.
Now Forrest is going upstairs trying to solo clear one of these players, and I do believe that, yep, Merc is not aware of his presence, but another opportunity slips by Astralis a few times now where they have been utterly turned on, but DP Fire marches up main stairs, and he gets his first kill of the entire game, but to be fair, it's on a Vigil who, okay, never mind, that one is a little bit better than the one on to Merc earlier, able to catch Achieved rotating back. All right, things have now swung back in the favor of Astralis, but what do they have? Well, DP Fire on low HP, they have some time to get more control over by Square and maybe go down server, but still with the Yokais and a C4 on the board, TSM are not out of it just yet.
From a 5v3 to a 2v3, Astralis through this middle point of the round, great, and really capitalizing off of TSM trying to reposition. I think after those picks, TSM realized, okay, we can get a little bit more comfortable, maybe head back to the bomb site. And it was Astralis catching them with their pants down. As you talked about, DP Fire went the entire first half without a kill. That's rough shape to be in. Now, as Astralis have this advantage, what stall potential does TSM have? There's an Echo in play. Status of the Yokai is currently unknown. Forrest attempting to get the diffuser planted. Bolo's Nitro Cell shot away at Astralis with the coverage that they need. Chala's going to get really aggressive on this one, and he gets gunned down from the hatch above. DP Fire doing it all. A 4K is his! So 0 kills in the first half, and 4 in the very first round. You said this might be a quick one for TSM. Not the case. I'd like to remind you, it was a 5v3, and then it became an OV3. 5 unanswered kills. Astralis take their very first round on attack, and did so after some blunders to start off with.
Yes.
Beautifully repositioning in the mid-round, carrying it forward, and not dropping a single body after that.
Yes, once they got to that 3v3, 2v3 position, they didn't get too ahead of themselves. Of course, they didn't wait the entire time. They didn't completely stall out, but they said, okay, what do we have? What does TSM potentially have? Okay, we'll try to move into server. The wall's already open. Oh, well, this is actually fairly easy for what we can do in the 3v2. Sure, maybe there's a Mozzie or an Echo on the board, but DP Fire, you go on the hatch, you can completely shut down potentially that C4 play coming in from red if you can see it. Sure, it got shut out of the air anyway, so it didn't really matter, but DP Fire had a very strong angle there to completely control the setup for that post plant or for that plant coverage. And it didn't even need it, because once he shot that C4 out of the air, people needed to start pushing, and then he just had to do his job at that point. So, as you said, great recovery by Astralis, but still a very strong early round for TSM. I want to see something a little bit more convincing from Astralis early on that isn't them just running into TSM's crosshairs.
Attackers must locate and defuse a
Oh, no timeouts burned again. Now we'll do the tail of the tapes because we couldn't because that round before was so hectic.
It was wild.
The first half. In terms of the bomb site, as I said, some middling success from Astralis. They went to lockers, CCTV downstairs 3 times. They did not prevail on 2 of those attempts. They finally won it 1 time. They also won open area, which they went to twice, so again a 50-50. And then it was Teller's Archives. No CEO defense. Well, even though they haven't defended CEO, it's been a huge part of the way that teams like to play on bank. You can see that exactly where Achieved is sitting in CEO. Hold that top floor, whether it's an Azami up there, whether it's any other defender. It's a very crucial part of the map, especially when you want to take open area, which is exactly where the defense is for TSM. They're not going to go back downstairs to lockers. I can understand why. They had some struggles, so maybe go somewhere else and keep your opponent on their toes. In terms of first blood, TSM actually leading the way. They have all but 1. That's pretty good, but still it's a 4-3 scoreline. So while TSM are getting these opening picks, not always the best at being able to secure the round after that.
And look at TSM in the early round right here. Of course, we had last time, which was very chaotic early on. Iconic just sprinting into Archives as a Maru, but this time, TSM, they had a couple players on that top floor, and if Astralis were doing that, they all would have died. At least it seemed like how it went that first half. But here, it's very quiet. TSM are able to rotate back successfully, and with half the round now gone, nothing has been lost by TSM. They burn half that round, forced Astralis to drone them, forced them to clear them. 5 drones, half of Astralis' stock off the board, and now they can play that middle floor and waste even more time. We have Geo still there, we have Achieve still there, we have Merc, and I think Chala still there as well. Of course, they can all just play off each other now. They can just hold these positions as long as they want to. And what does TSM to do, or what does Astralis to do, excuse me? They can start playing the vertical, but everyone from TSM's guns are still alive.
I also wanted to talk about that previous round. There were no actual hard breachers brought from Astralis on their very first attack. Now, obviously, they've switched that up. They've got an ace. They were just rolling with the single secondary hard breach as far as I'm aware, unless I missed something about the lineup previously. So Astralis really liking what they bring in terms of utility and not being too flustered by not bringing a Thermite or a Maverick. Instead, it's the ace. Hibana banned out obviously complicates things a little bit. J90 gets the first kill, answered back by Bolo. Diffuser being planted. Iconic softened up. Can Forrest pull this one off? Yes. Teams will both trade out, but Astralis actually comes out ahead of this brawl, leaving Geo to collapse on the buck and get the kill. Shuttle had no chance there whatsoever. Achieved from above. Watching these angles, he'll rely an awful lot on the 11-3 Geo to get back to the bomb site. Forrest sees one over by Copier and easily picks off Achieved. Geo can't do much. Right. He's old and he's got the worst gun in the game, I believe somebody said in the North American League at maybe a 6 Invitational a couple of years back. Astralis, impressive stuff after they get that first pick. Storm into the bomb site, get the diffuser down. TSM's retake, not exactly what it needs to be. And guess what? We got a tie game.
Yeah, and you can have, you know, I wouldn't say the early round was not successful for Astralis, but it wasn't really, it was neutral across the board. TSM go back. Astralis take the control. Wasn't really all that exciting. But if you are able to still open up those hatches, get some vertical control, and once you flood into the site, you're able to get the first couple kills, it can work out. And Astralis got the control they needed. They got that initial pick for J90. They drop the player down with the diffuser. He starts getting the plant down behind that desk. They watch the double door from Marble, and thankfully most of the TSM players are stationed over inside a cafeteria, and they have DP Fire watching Beepers as well to make sure that nobody can rotate in. So for Astralis, even though they didn't have a very successful early round, their positioning was on point, and they started off that flood with a kill, so the man advantage is favoring them even if TSM traded back. They didn't have a lot early on, but they made up for it very quickly.
There's a similar lineup being brought from Astralis. The one big change that they have right now is they're bringing the Dokubi. Shuttle on that roll instead of on the buck. After foregoing a hard breacher in their very first attacking round, Astralis roll with the ace for 2 in a row. No secondary hard breach available, but nades and 3 flashes to cut through whatever might be present. There is a Wamai on the board, no Jaeger, and you don't have to worry about an Aruni. Again, TSM holding from above, achieved like this position before, doing it as Oryx. Now it's his turn to play off of the alibi. As we talked about CEO being so critical because there's a lot of paths that you need to hold off, especially on retakes, and TSM need to keep that control above. But this is now a Teller's Archives defense, so it's even more important, and Achieved almost misses out on that, by the way. A bit of a sloppy fight. Bolo falls, so TSM gets it. And there's another to follow up. What is going on? That window might as well be a clown car, as Astralis just keeps having bodies pop out of that location. Logic Bomb goes off to try and maybe help the last 2 players from Astralis. But even though In the first minute, Astralis takes some chances and gets some good shots in. It's TSM to emerge with a 4v2, and Merc now on this Oryx in the same position, holding from above. Astralis need to clear this out, but Achieved and Merc will work side by side. Achieved a nice shot on that 1.5 scope attached to the Storm. Another to come in, it's Shuttle. DMR being heard halfway point of this round, and SMG-12 pulled out, but still, Shuttle in not a very winnable spot, doesn't hold the diffuser, and knows that it's in the clutches of TSM. Achieved was in that spot before. Merc is still up there as well. Shuttle will go for it, and it's Achieved.
On the same window, maybe there was some other angle that got shut down. There was a third kill as well, so maybe they were trying a pinch, but I just don't know if rappelling in with someone still actively in CEO who can contest that window was the play there, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, unless they were expecting him to shoot the drone and then immediately reposition, come in and then maybe try to pin him down, because keep in mind, there was another, I believe there was another Astralis player on the double windows, and they thought, okay, maybe we can catch you on the cross, or maybe we can try to double rappel in, but again, I don't know what the call was. That would be a question, in particular, for an exit interview. Maybe call out or whomever can give us some greater insight, but the thing is this is the time for Astralis to call the timeout, because you lose this round, it goes to match point. Astralis have been much better as this has gone on to counter TSM, and their attacks have been stronger. And I mean, it shows, right? You take 2 of these 3 rounds, and Astralis is being aggressive. They forfeited that first pick all the way in round number 7. They still ended up winning the round because they're good in those mid rounds. Again, good control from Astralis, good patience from Astralis, and when they can drone, they can work really well together. Something the TSM, I said, was doing quite well when they were on attack was how effective they were droning. But there's obviously something after that round, and it could be, as you said, what was the idea there? Maybe there wasn't an idea. Maybe they just threw out the rule book.
Maybe it was a bad call.
And call out or whomever saw it and said, you know what? We need to fix this. We need to fix this now.
Well, that is unfortunate. Bolo retreats out of open area, and J90 walks in, and, well, unfortunately, I think that's kind of a similar situation to before. Maybe they thought Bolo had fallen off completely, and, unfortunately, they ended up losing the fight. Maybe J90 knew he was there, but either way, Bolo just fires a few shots, gets a kill, walks all the way back down to that bottom floor. And even though they lost the Zofia, there aren't many players still on this room. I think there's one player all the way over on blue stairs, but TSM have ceded most of the control of this middle floor. So, I mean, you lost the Zofia, but you have a whole minute and 50 seconds to recover from that. Worse things have happened.
It's very easy to look at the score lines and just try to assess how this matchup has gone. DP Fire got all 4 of his kills in 1 round. Other than that, 0-8 on the other remaining 9 rounds of action, now almost 10 that we see being played out. That is not great from a player who usually needs to step up for the team. The 2 top performers on Astralis are historically iconic, and now Forrest. Forrest is doing his job. Yesterday it was J90 and Shuttle who showed up the most. J90 is the 2nd best player on the team, but he's 5-8. Astralis are really struggling in these engagements, and for a team that, especially on attack, is bringing operators that are engaging quickly and are far less utility heavy, that's a bit of a problem. Iconic is going to walk right in and botch most of his shots. Bolo picks up 4 kills out of nowhere. Goodness gracious. And things fall apart in an instant for Astralis. The timeout does not work. It's match point for TSM, and they do it flawlessly. You look distraught.
I met Iconic at Charlotte. Great guy, lovely guy.
Cool name drop.
He was a very lovely person to talk to. I feel like that round was summarized very well by his engagement in Garage. Just almost there, but constantly just tracing around, you know, the end of the rainbow, so to speak. Because we see them just go, okay, we lost J90. You know what we should do? Let's just flood. Let's just flood the site. I mean, we won a round earlier. We won open area by just flooding the site by dropping down a hatch. Let's go for it. It honestly kind of works in this meta. But the thing with flooding the site in that kind of situation is if you're not operating off of, you know, intel, or if you don't start off in a good spot in the trades, and let's say Bolo gets, you know, like 3 of you, it doesn't really work out all that well. I feel like Astralis maybe, I don't know if they're skipping steps, I don't know if there's just something not going right, but we started off with 2 really good attacking rounds, and it seems like we have regressed in the past 2.
We talked about how this is like a must-win for Astralis, because even though they are 2-1, the same scoreline as TSM, it doesn't tell the whole story. TSM have 2 wins in regulation, and their only loss came in overtime, which means they still picked up points, which means they sit at 7 points. Astralis is 2-1, does not amount to the same thing. It amounts to 5 points, which with how tight NAL has been, 2 points can really make the difference between whether you go to the major or not. For teams like Dark Zero and Astralis, both of whom are on the outside looking in of the Berlin major, this is not a result you need. TSM's resurgence has been something to behold. They won against Mirage 7-4, and well, I mean,
all right.
Bolo decides to go for it. That's fine. He's had a much better defensive half than we saw from him for all of Stage 1. 14 kills to Jason Doty's name, but he's not going to be able to rack up any more. We'll rely on his teammates to carry the weight for this round. It's an open area defense for TSM. Breaking through the window, first death for TSM, that's fine. But again, this TSM scoreline that we were talking about, they lost to OXG 6-8, and OXG have looked mighty good. Maybe they didn't have the best result against Sonics in the match that just happened moments before we got live, but even in their loss, TSM looked good against OXG. There's a 7-5 victory over Sonics, who also look rejuvenated, and a 7-4 victory over Mirage. Astralis seemingly coming alive. They've got 3 kills. They're looking for a flawless round of their own. TSM have done it flawlessly twice.
So it's a 5v2. Astralis able to have a little bit more successful of a roam clear than before. Doesn't seem to go by the same methodology as TSM, where they would just kind of set up on their positions and, well, the defense would do half the work for them. But this time, Astralis are able to come out ahead out of the, as opposed to the previous 2 attacking rounds. Of course, problematically for TSM, you have some pretty good post-lane operators. Sure, you got the Echo and the Pulse, but Pulse is already used to C4, which that heartbeat scanner and that C4 combo is one of the most lethal in Rainbow Six. And Chala's active yokais are TBD at the moment. We don't know exactly their positions or how many are still alive, unfortunately. But he's able to get a kill. And if you're able to do that work with the MP5, yokais be damned. You don't even need it.
11th round, Chala picks up kill number 2. The only reason why that hasn't been highlighted more is Chala right now is 2-4. He's been playing very sheltered minutes for his team. If you look at some of these deaths, well, you see 9 deaths for a couple of players on Astralis. Nice shot from Iconic as he splatters the walls with Chala's innards. That's Merc in a 1v4. Diffuser going down. Pings out. But the UMP, as we've seen time and time again, is not the ideal gun to clutch on. Well, he takes down Forest. Iconic is also on 1 HP, so this could very quickly become a 1v2, but the timer runs, and that's the bigger issue that Merc will have to deal with. A lack of information and a lack of time. Doesn't know where to go. Diffuser now at a halfway point. Site reconstruction being done by shuttle. The longer that Merc waits, the more entrenched that Astralis can get, and the farther away from the bomb site they can get too. He just has no information whatsoever. If he tries to retake open, there's a couple holes in the floor. His ceiling, that can be spotted out. 2 seconds left for Merc to get on in, and he's not going to be able to do that. He sees some bullets, but these kills are just for posterity. Nothing else. Can't even capitalize, and DP Fire gets a free exit kill, as Astralis will now push us to round number 12, despite a good effort from Merc. With how close these 2 teams have been, I don't think they want to go to overtime because TSM used their timeout.
They will take that timeout, but I will say that round was right there. That shot right there was it was the final nail in the coffin for TSM, but I want to... I know.
I will say there have been a couple rounds that I really do need to praise Astralis on, but I think between these 2 teams, Astralis have committed far more mistakes.
Yes.
And the mistakes that they've committed are very obvious. Like, the thing with Rainbow Six as a game is that because it is so challenging to spectate, there's a lot of micro decisions that teams will make.
That's a really good point.
That we don't really see. Somebody rotating, timing, siege timing being a huge one. You make a move when, you know, somebody calls something. The comms can lead you astray as well. Maybe you open things up in a certain way, a wall, a floor, etc., that actually works against you. These micro decisions are not necessarily mistakes, but they are punished as if they are a mistake, and we can't really see that. So a lot of the things that TSM does wrong are not as immediately apparent. So it's very easy for us to look at Astralis and see Iconic coming in and botching an opening kill.
Yeah.
For example, on TSM side, Bolo jumping out the window and just getting picked off because he picks wrong based on maybe limited information. Those are very obvious things that go wrong. Astralis mistakes have been quite obvious, which I think for a team makes it easier for you to coach your way out of it because you see it and you say, hey, don't do that again.
Yeah.
TSM structurally have looked like the better team so far, but Astralis have been no slouches. They've punished TSM, and I really do want to go back to that round number 7, the very first attack from Astralis, when it was that 5v3. and yet they were perfect in the mid-round. They punished TSM's negligence when TSM was caught trying to get back to the bomb site. Astralis won the round off of those plays, and yeah, maybe the timing for TSM wasn't great, and we can be critical of that, but Astralis read into it and punished them, and that's praise for Astralis for the way they handled it.
That is an extremely good point, and right as we see right here, both Forest and J90 moving in through open area slowly off the back of those EE1Ds. TSM took the timeout, but that also gave Astralis some time to talk as well, and maybe get things back on track in their own right. And we both see J90 and Forest playing off of each other, slowly moving in, covering various angles. That was a really solid movement in open area to get that first pick. Of course, it is a Teller's Archive defense right now, and on top of that, that's a really useful bit of control. So you brought up that really good point about how Astralis mistakes might be more obvious, but that was an opening right there. That was probably one of the best they've had in the game so far, barring that round 7 2K.
Forrest knows there might be one inside of the B bomb site. Look at how close he is to some objective play right now. He also holds on to that diffuser. Chala will be the one that has to stop him. EE1D goes out, and Chala will swing, take out J90. They know that he's in there, but he's just going to go cross-body karate, taking down everybody in the process. Hunted now by the LMG in the hands of Forrest, and Chala picks up 3 big kills. He's suddenly drawn even. TSM cleaning the floor right now. Astralis leaves Shuttle as the last man to try and hold this together. He's got 2 kills to be found, but there's Capkin traps on the board, and look at Shuttle's HP. He doesn't check a door frame, he's as good as dead. It doesn't matter if Achieved is alive or dead himself. Still a minute to go. Diffuser in the hands of Shuttle. Flashes go out. Has no idea where they are, and he goes through. Continue to press the advantage. Onto the stairs, but it's Achieved to seal the deal. That Capkin we talked about. It was a promising start from Astralis, but Chala earns himself another appreciation post as TSM earns themselves another victory.
And it's bittersweet in a way for Astralis, because I've been very critical of Astralis so far, but that was a solid early round with a very useful bit of control. And it seemed